So Norma, take it away.
Hi there. I'm Norma Davey with FrankJKinney.com, and we're here to interview Frank J. Kinney. Hi, Frank. How are you today?
I'm good, Norma. How are you?
I am doing great. I understand that you have just finished up your third annual social media survey for Chambers. What are some of the big takeaways in that?
Well, time is getting to be more and more of an issue. We heard in the first and the second surveys about how people didn't have the time for social media, but it's really getting to the point where people are feeling frenzied. They don't have time for the posting. They don't have time to keep up with the changes. They don't have time to create a strategy. They're just winging it. Time pressures have really become a major issue for Chambers.
I'm curious, are there maybe some upcoming trends that might be impacting Chambers?
Well, I like to speak about these mega trends that are coming towards Chambers, that are starting to impact Chambers. There's three specific ones that I discuss in a lot of my presentations, and the first big one is the collapse, the decline of the old marketing funnel. For the longest time, companies, organizations would be able to communicate with their target market and their membership by putting out advertisements. And, basically what that was interrupting somebody when they were doing something else. So they were watching TV and they would be interrupted by a commercial. You're listening to the radio, you're interrupted. You're trying to read the newspaper and there's all these ads. All of that was I call it interruptive marketing. And it was just the way of things. For the entire 20th century, if a company had a large enough budget, they could absolutely use the marketing funnel to create awareness, to build interest, to create desire, to eventually cause an action. They just hammer you again and again and again and again with interrupting you. And we were pretty powerless as consumers, as members, to do anything about it, because if you wanted to watch TV, you had to put up with commercials and radio and newspapers and the whole thing. And we're living in a different world today. It's really this trend that is coming along with social media and the internet, is that we can construct our life how we want it, and we don't want to be interrupted. And so, me personally, I watch movies, but I watch them on Netflix. I am not subjected to the interruptions, the commercials. The same with Pandora for the radio and satellite and listening to podcasts. All of these kind of things allow me to avoid interruptive marketing. So one of the big mega trends is how are organizations, Chambers, and the members of Chambers going to adapt to a world where you can't get your message through anymore through interruptive marketing. You're going to have to take a different tact. The other two big trends that I talk about a lot is the baby boomer generation leaving the workforce, leaving the Chambers membership. And that is creating a lot of results, and one of them is really negative for communities. I don't know if the audience has read Mark Lautman's book, When Boomers Bail, but it is going to be a big, big deal when these boomers bail from the membership of Chambers and from the workforce, because we don't have enough qualified people coming in to fill their shoes. And this is going to cause some really bad times for communities if they're not telling a story that attracts talent to come live in those cities and to take jobs in the workforce. And I don't want to go too deep into what Mark's book talks about, but the downside of not telling your community story through social media, through these new digital marketing channels, is an economic death spiral. And it sounds pretty dramatic and pretty dire. And you'll have to read the book to really get an understanding here of just how dire it is. But there's things that can be done about it, and it's the Chamber's job, the Chamber's role, even the Chamber's privilege to do something about it. The third trend I talk a lot about is competition in the Chamber world, with networking groups popping up, leads groups popping up. This is brand new competition that the Chambers didn't used to have to think about. And then social media allows just anybody to create a community online and do networking online. All of these core functions of the chamber for the longest time are now being disintermediated. That people are coming in and squeezing the chamber on their core functions. And all of this really calls for two updates to the chamber business model. You've got to do something with chambers with the lack of time they have to do social media right, the time pressures. We've got to help them recapture their time. And then we have to address these mega trends that are on the doors of chambers all across the world. Well, the inclusive membership model, or the universal membership model, it goes by a lot of names, is this idea that chambers already represent their entire community, the entire business community and the entire community. And since we're already representing the entire community, why don't we call all the businesses members? And really, that word members, it's just a phrase. It could be called clients, could be called stakeholders. There's a lot of chambers in the country that have decided that we're going to represent all the businesses in our community at some level, and they name them different things. And let's do a couple examples here. At the Colorado Springs Chamber of Commerce, where Marianne Virgili is the CEO, I should mention, they were just named ACCE's 2013 Chamber of the Year at the Glenwood Springs, Colorado Chamber. They have an inclusive membership model with clients and stakeholders. And the idea here is that if somebody calls the chamber to ask for a referral, they're not going to hesitate whether they're a member or not. They're going to tell the customer what the customer needs to know, what information they were looking for, and they are going to be inclusive of all the businesses. And at the Kaiser Chamber in Oregon, what they do with their membership directory is include all the businesses in the community. Now, they segment it between, at the top are the members, and at the bottom of the online membership are the non-members, or the not yet members. But if somebody's going to go online because they're looking for a plumber, they really don't care if it's a member or not. What they want is complete information. And so the Kaiser Chamber has this inclusive, or this universal model. And it's not that you give all your benefits away, the top level benefits, to all the businesses, whether they're members or not. It's just this idea that you already represent the entire community. It's actually in the best interest of the chamber to give all those members some amount of love, some amount of listing in your online directory, and other ways that you can do, like social media. You can help promote a business whether they're a member or not. They're a job creator. They're the tax base. There's no reason to alienate or to ignore 30, 40, sometimes 70, 80% of the businesses in a community just because they're not technically members. We'll make them a member at some level. Give them some minor services, even if it's just sharing your chamber newsletter with them. It brings them on board. I talked earlier about the funnel, and the funnel had stuffing people in it through interrupting them, and they just packed that funnel as full of people as they could through advertising, through interrupting, through commercials. And if 1 or 2% came out the bottom, that was considered a successful marketing campaign or advertising campaign. You interrupted, you annoyed, you did harm to 98% of your target market. For 2% return, I call that a meat grinder, not so much a funnel. And I don't think it's the right way to do business. And chambers are in the same boat. In the 20th century, if you weren't a member, you didn't get anything. Sometimes they even pulled you from your email list. They wouldn't communicate with you. They certainly wouldn't do anything with the internet. They wouldn't list you. Oh, that is very 20th century thinking. The new model is to include everybody, give them some level of service, especially when it's free through digital marketing. And then that brings them into a more inclusive funnel where you get to know them and you can build a relationship and you give them little gifts and you're generous. And that's what I advocate for, a model that pulls people into the funnel. And if they haven't yet joined, you still love them. They're still job creators. They're still the tax base, and they're still salespeople for the chamber. If the chamber is telling a story, these people can now share that story with their sphere of influence. Changing the mindset of a chamber from small thinking. Way too many of us in the chamber industry, I don't know where this started, maybe it took generations to build, but we got sometimes too small of thinking. We actually rest in a very interesting nexus between the business community, the politicians and government, and then the citizens. And the chamber's right in the middle of that, representing the business community. We have access to a lot of funding and a lot of reach through the businesses. The politicians love to be involved in the chamber. And then the community, the chamber is a great storyteller for the entire community. So now, today, in the age of the internet, we have a massive opportunity as chambers to step out of our little box, out of our small thinking, and we can become the chief storyteller, the chief media company in our communities. We have today the ability to reach massive numbers of people in our community, not just the decision makers, but everybody. There's nobody that the chamber and the business community doesn't touch in the community. So if we are creating stories, if we're telling the world about our schools and our hospitals and the small businesses and the main street and all the other beautiful things that our community has to offer, a lot of those things people don't even know about. Well, the chamber can tell that story now if it thinks of itself as a media company. And it's not hard like it used to be. 20 years ago, to be a media company, you needed expensive TV equipment, boom mics, excuse me, you needed crews of people and sound technicians, and it was just a massive undertaking. Even to do a 30-second commercial, we were looking at $20,000. And then to distribute that commercial, we were looking at another many thousands of dollars. Today, a chamber that is forward-thinking and open to new ideas, to innovation, can do all of that themselves on a daily basis, producing media, producing content that people crave. And by becoming a storyteller, the chief storyteller of your community, it allows you to attack head-on the time issue, the trends, the mega trends that are coming against the chamber. It really is, it's a mindset. It's about believing that the chamber has a very special role to play in the community, and you're going to do it through modern means, even advanced means, social media and digital marketing. And so that's my big push in the chamber industry, is to get them to believe in themselves enough to become media companies. You just happen to sell memberships, but you have the largest voice, and it's time to use it.